How's it going? My name is Odin. As you can see by my nose on oxygen on a nasal cannula. I just got done being in UC Davis in Northern California for 5 months on the ventilator. And I'm here to tell you my side of the story of COVID. I'm not doing this for any kind of political views. It's not like that. I'm not here to push any kind of, push any kind of agendas or have anybody arguing in the comments over, left or right. That's not what this is about. This is my story of how I got COVID, and I'm a walking miracle, basically, and how I got sick. Like I said, my name is Odin. I'm from Northern California. I have 2 daughters, one 13, one 17. Since this whole COVID thing started, I went 2 years with no issues. I bounced at a nightclub here in Northern California, in Chico, California, for 2 years. No face mask, no vaccinations. Again, I'm not here to pass judgment, so please try not to pass any on me. So, as I was saying, I bounced for 2 years straight during this time of the lockdown and since this whole COVID thing started. To tell you the truth, I didn't really think I could get it. I thought I was symptomatic. There was no way that I was around, 1,500 people a night and being face to face with people in an enclosed area and not getting sick. So, in my mind, there was no way I was getting it. Was that being cocky or anything? No, I just didn't feel the need to get vaccinated. I didn't feel the need to wear masks. I was one of the ones that was going to trust my immunity. So, and we'll get into that more as my video goes on. I'm going to be doing a few different segments. I'll be uploading some more pictures of me on the ventilator in a coma. As you can tell, I'm breathing pretty heavily. I'm still having a lot of issues. To tell you the truth, I'm really lucky the situation that I was in, that I have the issues that I do have, and not a lot more. So, getting back to in the beginning, how I got sick. Like I said, I went years without having any issues. Nobody in my household, not only me, but nobody in my household for 2 years straight got COVID. So nobody was really worried about it around here. Until one day, my oldest daughter, she went to Sacramento with her friends, and she came back, and the next day she said, "Dad, I have a fever. I think I'm sick." So we had a bunch of rapid test kits that we had here at home, and I told my wife, I said, "Please test her just for the hell of it, because I think she's got COVID." So she tested her, and sure enough, she came back positive. So about 2 days later, my wife came up positive. These two didn't really have any big issues. My wife was sicker than my daughter. My daughter got the sniffles and a fever for like 3-4 days, and she was good to go. My wife, she kind of clung on a little bit more with the bronchial constriction and the lung issues. That's to be expected. So she was kind of sick. So 2 days after my wife had came up positive, I woke up with just severe, just felt like someone was sitting on my chest, and I have had asthma prior, so just felt like shit. Uh, Took a test, I came back positive. So I really wasn't really worried about it at this point because, my daughter, like I said, and my wife, they were just, they had the sniffles. They were, they were soldiers through this whole thing. They definitely benefited, uh, you know, from this a lot more than I did. They got some immunity from it, and they didn't really get too sick. But I'd say 2 days later after I tested positive, not only was I coughing and my chest was just hurting, I was literally coughing up blood clots just after a couple of days. Now, mind you, I have asthma, so I'm sitting here thinking, man, maybe it's just, hitting you a little harder than, the girls. Nothing really to worry about. Well, I had a buddy of mine go get me a SpO2 blood saturation level meter that you put on your finger to check the oxygen levels in your blood. And I was low. I wasn't super low at first, but I was low. And coughing up the blood, I was starting to get concerned. It wasn't the very next day that I knew I was in really bad shape. Fever, couldn't breathe at all. Taking breathing treatment. After breathing treatment, my brother had sent me a care package of everything under the sun that they said would work for this thing, to besides the monoclonal treatments and stuff like that, which I didn't have access to. So I started to have really bad issues. So I went to the local hospital here. I won't mention no names because I'm in a malpractice kind of a thing with them, because I went to the emergency room and went to the triage nurse. He checked my SpO2 levels and they were at 88, which is bad. If you ain't got emphysema or any kind of past medical history with any lung issues like COPD or anything like that, or really severe asthma, oxygen level like that is pretty bad. So I was really concerned at this point. The nurse at the triage center looked at me and told me that he had seen several different people in way worse shape than me, and they were in line to get x-rays and everything. He said, you probably have COVID pneumonia. Go home, drink a lot of fluids, and try to lay prone on your stomach, because this causes your lungs to expand and get more oxygen for gas exchange, for a better perfusion of your body. So it didn't sound right from the get-go. I walked out of the triage pretty upset because I knew that this was not just your average case of COVID. I know my body. I told my wife, I said, we need to go somewhere else and we need to go fast. So we started our trip south to Sacramento. And originally my stepmother works at a hospital called Peninsula Hospital in San Mateo. She wanted me to come down to her hospital because, she has better perks from working there. She's a respiratory therapist. So the original plan was to go to the Bay Area. Unfortunately, hour into the drive, my oxygen levels continued to dip. I started to pass out, feel real fatigue, dizzy. Told my wife just pull into UC Davis, and I really hope they just take my insurance. As soon as I got through the emergency doors, sorry, it's hard to talk about this because I just spent the better half of 5 months with my big toe in the grave. So when I got in the emergency room, they told me straight up, Odin, you are in really bad shape, and if you hadn't came down to the hospital to get a second opinion, Lord knows where you would be. You'd probably be dead. They sent me straight back on high flow oxygen, 100% high flow oxygen. Pushed my wife out of the hospital instantly. So I'm already I'm tripping. I'm fucking scared at this point. So, they get me back into the room and start doing vitals on me. They take blood. They want to do arterial blood draw, which if anybody has, this is not your average blood draw. An arterial blood draw is where they take from your artery to get a righteous judgment of your oxygen levels, an exact oxygen rate in your blood levels. And this is one of the most painful things you got to go through. The arterial blood draws are terrible. So they took the blood draw, and they told me, Odin, we're admitting you. This is a lot more serious than you thought. You should have came in a little bit earlier. So I explained to them, I'm not from Sacramento. I live an hour and a half north, and I tried to go to the hospital, and they turned me away. So instantly they noticed something's going on with my heart. So they rushed me back to the X-ray department to do a CAT scan and to do a sonogram of my heart. So they're kind of worried. They think that I have a blood clot already in my heart. So as soon as I hear that, I'm completely terrified at this point. I'm asking them, hey, am I going to die from this? And they said, this can be fatal, yes. We're not going to lie to you. So I called my wife. She's in complete hysterics. She hasn't even left Sacramento yet. They literally were pushing her out of the hospital. So at this point, I call my wife, completely scared. She's in hysterics. She wants to at least possibly say her last goodbyes to me. So they won't even let her near the emergency room. So from there, it progressively got worse by the day. In 2 weeks, not only was I on high flow, I had double COVID pneumonia. I had double abscess in both my lungs the size of golf balls. And I started to develop what's called Pseudomonas, which has a high mortality rate as it is because antibiotics are very resistant when it comes to Pseudomonas. They tried 16 different antibiotics to keep me alive. And we'll get back to that later because it ended up destroying my kidneys when I was in the ICU. So they're explaining everything that's going on with me. They rushed me to the ICU. I'm having a hard time laying prone because the ICU nurses and doctors are telling me, Odin, this is really important. I'm sorry, my dog's he's a brat. So they're telling me, Odin, you gotta lay prone and start helping us, man. I was so tired just so beat and fatigued. And I was a bigger guy. When I went in, I was 230 pounds. I wouldn't say raw muscle, but kind of built like a power lifter. You know, I wasn't small by any means. So it was hard for me to lay in the hospital beds prone on my stomach because I'm already wide. So by not doing that, eventually they came up to me and said, "Odin, we seriously have to start having a discussion about the ventilator." And I was already just like, fuck no. I've already heard all the horror stories. I've already heard all of the bad things that you can hear. People are already texting me, you know what I mean, telling me, don't let them give you this, don't let them give you that. You know, if you end up on the ventilator, you're gonna die. So, you know, I'm completely terrified. They get me up to ICU Blue in UC Davis. And for those of you that ain't familiar with UC Davis, it's a pretty world-renowned hospital for its learning. It's kind of like a college for hospitals, but you know they dabble in new experimentations and medicines that haven't even been tried yet. Thank God for me that I did go to Davis. So I ended up in ICU Blue, and at this point I'm in really bad shape. They even at 100% high flow oxygen, they can't keep my SpO2 levels above 88. So they broke it down to me. Excuse me, Odin, this is the situation. You no longer can fight this by yourself. You know, we know that that this is a hard decision to make, because we're not going to lie to you. You don't have a very big survival rate to make it on the ventilator. Most don't make it. So at this point, like I said, my lungs had already, just, they were severely infected. Infected is an understatement. At one point, they drilled into my back, and they had to push drainage hoses on both sides to just get the fluid out. So at this point, I have a lot of stress on my body. And in ICU Blue, you're locked in kind of like, almost like a plexiglass pod. So that's going to make your average person scared shitless already, and I was. Because every time the nurses or the doctors would come in, they were in full respirator gear. It was so sealed off. At one point, I was, obviously I'm on a bunch of medicine, super tired, and I'm looking, and I see the nurses, doing this through the window. And I'm like, what the hell is she doing? And it turns out they all learned sign language to get all the medical supplies that they would need when they were in the sealed off rooms. There was 22 of us on the floor at that time. So at this point, I'm beyond terrified. I don't even have the energy to pick up the phone. My family's trying to contact me. I'm in the ICU for a good 2.5-3 weeks now. And you guys, come on. So at this point, they're wheeling in an iPad for you to have any kind of communication with your family. So it started to it really started to hit me that I possibly wasn't going to make it. You know, the thought of passing away was really starting to sink in at this point. And I'm losing my entire life overnight. My job, everything. I'm leaving 2 little girls at home who are, not solely dependent on me. My wife has autoimmune diseases herself. That's what made me so scared for her when I found out that she got this. She ended up faring way better than I did. So, at this point, I have the abscesses going, double pseudomonas in both lungs, double COVID pneumonia, in both lungs. And my oxygen levels were dipping by the day. So at this point, they had sent in a priest, and I just wasn't ready for it. I was like, I'm not ready to hear all this shit. I'm not ready to give up. Yeah, you know what I mean? I'm not really ready to accept the fact that I'm gonna die. So the priest comes in, and I pretty much shoot him off the first 2 times. They send the priest in to read me my last rites. And he says, Odin, don't look at it like, I'm reading your last rites. You need to look at it like when you get ready to go in and deal with this and be on this ventilator, you have everything in the world fighting for you. Even if you're mad at God, you're mad at the world right now, you're mad at me. Wouldn't you want to go into this knowing that you had everything, there with you, getting your back when you're getting ready to go through possibly the worst experience in your entire life? So the priest came in full hazmat gear every time. Like I said, respirators. These were not your average COVID floors with N95s, So like I said, I'm scared to death. He had to come in and read me my last rites. And they told me, we're going to bring an iPad so you can say goodbye to your kids and your family, possibly for the last time. Which is a feeling that I don't wish on anybody who has children, or anybody period for that matter. So I say my last goodbyes to my daughters, to my wife, and they prep me for my trach, which I just got decannulated not too long ago, by about the end of February. They took out the trach out of my throat. And again, I'll be posting pictures later on as my videos go by to show you exactly the shape that I was in a coma. So at this point, they're prepping me for my trach. They're getting ready to intubate me. And I've never been so scared in my entire life. Beforehand, I was on their asses. I'm just like, so what are the chances? What are my chances of beating this? You know what I'm saying? What is the chances of me being able to come out of this alive? So the doctors they told me word for word, Odin, we don't have a magic ball, kid. We ain't got no magical way to give you a yes or no answer. If you're looking for any kind of percentages, we're going to give you probably about a 12% survival rate. So at that point, it really began to sink in that I was going to die. So that stages of death shit is for reals. For real, for real. Mad at the whole world at first, you know. Pissed off at everything, scared to death, and then, you know, it's crazy. You go into this weird, you go into this weird acceptance that, you know, you make your peace with God. You make peace with God and accept the fact that you're going to pass away. And you want to do it with some dignity, you know. And I'm laying there with everything going through my head, you know. I'm not going to see my kids grow up. I'm not going to see them walk down the aisle. All that. Which is still, I'm sorry, it's super hard. Super hard to talk about, you know. And literally sitting there on my deathbed, just worried, you know, what's going to happen with my kids, you know, what's going to happen with my wife. You know, they're going to be utterly devastated to the fact of losing their father. I wasn't never the dad that was half-assed there. I have been that hands-on father with both of my children since they were born. I changed both their first diapers. You know, my oldest was colic really bad. You know, and when my wife would breastfeed, she was so tired. It took me an hour to get a burp out of her, so I would, even when I had to work in the mornings, when she breastfed, I burped her and let her get some rest, you know. So I was that kind of father. So you can imagine, if you have children, what's going through my head. You know, I'm getting ready to completely ruin their life. Not me, but this whole situation. So they bring me into the operating room and explain to me, hey, we're getting ready to put you on the ventilator. They make you you know, sign a waiver whether you want to be resuscitated or not. And they ask me, you know, oh, do you want to be resuscitated in the case that the ventilator doesn't work for you? I said, absolutely. Yeah, I want to be resuscitated, you know? So it's just, you know, a pile of emotions that no human beings should ever feel. And you know, on top of everything, it's you're supposed to be going into this with every bit of energy and fight that you have to even fucking have a chance to come out alive. So yeah. So they tell me, we're getting ready to put you under. They start counting backwards from 10. They said, you know, you're going to get to 5 and you're just going to go to sleep. So they start counting backwards. Everything goes black. At that point, you go into, I wouldn't even call it a dream state. You're in more of a different dimension, a different realm. And it didn't take too long for me to realize in my coma that I was in a coma. On this next video I'm going to explain exactly what it was like to be in a coma, and what it's like to come out of it too. And I appreciate you guys for watching my story. I hope you guys tune in for the next video that I'm going to do. Like I said, I'm not doing this video for any kind of political bullshit, you know what I mean, for who got vaccinated, who didn't get vaccinated. I didn't, was none of my business in the beginning, and it's none of mine now. So, I'm glad you guys stopped by, check out my video. I'll be posting another video again on a part 2 of what it's like to be in a coma.